Mic check. One, two, one, two. Mic check. If you can hear me, can you give me a one? Mic check. If you can hear me, will you press one? All right. Thank you, Melissa. How you doing today? Thank you for joining in. Okay. Well, since I know that I can be heard, we're gonna have a. That's good. Have a quick discussion. I'm sure most of y'all are aware of, have heard the news about the Hadron Collider being turned back on today, on the 5th, and I meant to have my ephemeris so I could look at the aspects for the day, but it's been turned back on today. Um, and what's interesting is that my children have gotten on this binge. I've been binge watching Flash on Netflix, and you know that whole series. They keep playing around with this concept of they have a some type of hydrogen or particle collider that they have inside of their little base called Star Labs. And um, one thing that's a recurring happening in the series is that they keep opening up these portals. And I'm sure y'all heard Peace Wise Feminine. How you doing? I'm sure y'all heard a lot of people talk about these portals and such, you know. Um, but so I won't I won't yes indeed. Got me a Romeo and Julieta. Um I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people got a lot more information than I have. So I'm not gonna try to deal with the particulars of it. I'm gonna deal with the overarching philosophy. Okay. Um and so we've been talking about that this year is a phenomenal year. One, it's a 6 year. And six, like I said yesterday, I hope my phone not heating up. Six is one of the years of one of the numbers of Venus. And six is a birthing number. So this is a year of things being birthed. And we know all births ain't good, you know. Um, but that said, it is what it is. Um, and within this year, we have Straight Panther. What's up, good brother? How you doing? Within this year, we have a major phenomenon that has happened that I've talked about, and a lot of other people have talked about, and it's that Jupiter formed a conjunction with Neptune in the sign of Pisces. Something that has not happened for 166 years. It's a very rare. alignment. Now they will form a conjunction every 12 years, but then for them to line up, but for them to line up in the sign of Pisces is rare. It's a once in a lifetime, or for one of those things, it's once in 3 or 4 generations. But what does that mean? Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's the ending of things. It's the end of a cycle, but it's also the beginning of a new cycle. It takes everything that has occurred before it and it synthesizes all of it. It creates a solvent where all of those concepts now become immersed in this vast pool. And this pool fuses all of those energies together. And along with fusion, it can cause confusion. Confusion, con with, fuse together. Connotatively, confusion is the inability to be laser focused on a certain reality because all realities, timelines, possibilities are now fused together. Thus, we have confusion. Now, what can emerge from that pool can be something remarkably positive, and it can be equally detrimental. Neptune is the one of the agents of Pisces. The planets are verbs. If we look at a sentence structure, the planets would be like the verbs in a sentence. They take action. So Neptune takes the action of dissolving. It takes the action of um, uh, making things wet, making things solvent. It's a dampening agent. It is it is illusionary because it is the action of imagination. And imagination can breed disillusionment. It can breed um, a attachment to that which is not real. Okay. Neptune can also be an agent of poison because Pisces also is the sign associated with poison. It's associated with narcotics. It's associated with jail, confinement. So Neptune can represent those energies as one of the rulers of Pisces. Traditional astrology, Nep- Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces. Now, Jupiter is expansive. Jupiter is a huge planet. Jupiter is abundance. It is um, it can be benefic. It's a multiplier. But Jupiter can also be um, the obsession with things that aren't real too, just like Neptune. It can be dismissive of of reality. It can be um, um, negatively abundant. This is tripping me out. I've been wondering where this sound is coming from. So my son got these little toy um, what you call earth mover toys, like the old caterpillar, but it's not. It's the newer version, the plastic ones. But I've been hearing this. I'm like, what is? So this thing been playing this little theme song off and on. Um, I think that's funny. Um, it's interesting. Just randomly start playing. But Jupiter swells things. Okay, so if you take Jupiter and Neptune, which is water, and Jupiter swells, then it's a energy of flooding that can be literally and figuratively. It can be a flood of illusion. It can be a flood of things that aren't real. It can be a flood of trickery. Now, I was watching a lady's channel earlier, just popped up. I never seen her before, but she was talking about some heavy stuff. Um, and she was talking about how the last time they turned this machine on is when we start having all the Mandela effect stuff, which is interesting. We can already see we've been thrust into a pool of what's real and what ain't, you know? And um, you have to know what you stand on right now because um, those who don't have any type of foundation to stand on, it's it's almost hopeless, and it's still challenging for those who feel like they have a foundation because now that foundation is going to be shaken. And so, peace, digital music, arts in the house, too ancient to define is in the house, peace. Uh, make sure I ain't miss nobody. Um, so it's just that type of time where there's so many things been thrown into the pool that part of the goal is to make people forgetful of what all they learned in those 11 signs prior to getting to Pisces. And I'm speaking metaphorically. In other words, what have you learned in your journey in this life and even in previous lives, plural? What have you learned? What have you acquired that has been working towards moving you towards continued soul evolution? You know, I feel like part of the plan is to derail that to where um, there's a loss of cosmic memory. Now, that's a book by Rudolf Steiner. I haven't read it, but just the title itself makes you is something to make you give pause, especially right now. But 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 I'm going to read something from Rudolf Steiner um, because it's funny that this thing is um, being switched on um, while we have the North Node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio. Scorpio is the underworld, and the underworld is a multifaceted um, concept. Taurus is above ground nature resources. Okay, so we live in a time right now where there's water scarcity, there's a food processing plant going up in smoke. And there's been, I think, I don't know if they said at least 100, that have been burnt up. So we now, there's the fear around food prices naturally are high as a result. Gas prices are high. So all these things, resources. Um, so what can that do to the general populace? Oh, say in the energy, right? Scarcity is upon us. So here's the thing: what might an evolved human, or we pretend ourselves to be evolved as an overall species, humans, but so we're speaking in general. What happens when a person starts becoming more concerned about can they eat, or even if it's not just specifically can they eat, what if they don't have any survival nature within them, and they've been so accustomed that they got to have they pop tarts, or they got to have they cornflakes, or you know what I mean. And even if it's just I can't get the food I like, what if I was like I got to eat something I don't want to eat? If a person is at that level of consciousness, what does it do to them? If a person has already spent the majority of their life um, not thinking, not being aware of their surroundings, aware of um, their inner reality, if they're not contemplative about their existence, their purpose from the jump, and they had food, what happens if they suddenly are struggling just for the necessities? Can you create a monster, or can you summon the monster that's been always been there and has never been tamed or integrated? It's funny that in the midst of all this going on, this thing gets turned on. Now, I want to go back to what I said about this conjunction between Jupiter and Neptune, because Rudolf Steiner was born about 9 years, I think, after that conjunction. That conjunction was in 1856, 5 6, it's Venus. And so um, I think he was born around 1865. I think, I may be wrong, but I think he was born around that time. So he was somewhat a product of that energy. And if you know anything about Rudolf Steiner, he was out there. He was Rosicrucian and anthroposophist, um, and so he was able to see kind of how that energy played out. I want to read something that it comes from a lecture of his in 1917, which is 105 years ago. This lecture was given in Zurich. I guess it's Zurich in Switzerland, or is that Germany? I can't remember, but either way, um, this was on November 6, 1917. And I'm getting this from this book, Secret Brotherhoods and the Mystery of the Human Double. Okay. And this is what he says. He says, he's talking about how this energy, the souls that can come in um, doing this type of energy. He says, these human souls do indeed have the task of finding out about these forces and inspiring people who are here on the earth with them, people who are not mediums, but who should find out about them in a normal and proper way through. Yes, okay. You can go a little bit longer. Okay. Thank you, buddy. Go ahead. So let me read this last sentence again. These human souls do indeed have the task of finding out about these forces and inspiring people who are here on the earth with them, people who are not mediums, but who should find out about them in a normal and proper way through inspiration. In normal life, one has to wait for this. When things that ought to come later make their appearance as spiritual premature births by the means I have described, through criminal occult activity. When this happens, those whose intentions towards humanity are not good, in other words, those who are black or gray magicians, may gain possession of such secrets. Okay, now I'm going to skip down to where he starts getting into, well, what might they do? Certain circles in this materialistic age, see, that's the key. Listen to the word materialistic, you know, i.e., industrial. Materialistic and industrial go hand in hand. Certain circles in this materialistic age are striving to paralyze and make impossible all of humanity's spiritual development through causing people by their temperament and character to reject everything spiritual and regard it as nonsense. A stream of this kind, and it is likely noticeable in some isolated individuals, will become deeper and deeper. A longing will arise for there to be a general opinion. What is spiritual? Whatever is of the spiritual is nonsense, is madness. Endeavors to achieve this will be made by bringing out remedies to be administered by inoculation, just as inoculations have been developed as a protection against diseases. Only these inoculations will influence the human body in a way that will make it refuse to give a home to the spiritual inclinations of the soul. I'm sure y'all I'm sure y'all picking up what I'm putting down. People will be inoculated against the inclination to entertain spiritual ideas. Endeavors in this direction will be made. Inoculations will be tested that already in childhood will make people lose any urge for a spiritual life. Wow. This is, however, only one of the things connected with a more intimate knowledge that must come about in this fifth post-Atlantean age regarding the connection of these natural processes and remedies with the human organism. They will make their appearance among humanity at the appropriate time. The decisive question will be what succeeds first, whether the endeavors to lose those spiritual premature births get into the hands of individuals for the furtherance of their own purposes, or whether knowledge about these things will come down in the right way for the welfare of humanity when the time is right. 105 years ago. 105 years ago. So the playbook has been around for a minute. So what I'm saying is, in addition to the switch being turned on, we got the other thing that's been going on, you know, for the past couple of years, and you can see the playbook. We've had so much predictive programming leading up. We've had Walking Dead, we've had The Purge, we've had 50 years ago, or see, 73, 49 years ago, we had Soylent Green come out. And then as a way to laugh into people's face, um, Dap was telling me that they had a movie showing of the movie up in North Carolina. You know, just a way to thumb the nose at everybody. Because those are the people. Um, Yay, straight Panther. I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that. Um, so we have that going on, but in the midst of that, you have those who are so unaware of what is happening and so wrapped up into just the minutia of three-dimensional life that you feel like you're being bombarded, on both sides, because ignorance is can be toxic. Just being in the presence of people who just don't get it. Now, I'm not saying you're supposed to walk around here with a like Chicken Little. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. But just to be but to right now to just not have your mind locked in on anything, whether it be the people who are out here gardening, or the people who are out here showing you how to collect rainwater. And I mean, it's so much stuff that I'm behind on it. Uh, as the head of my family, it's so much to learn and to apply. Um, or people who showing you what dry foods you need, or people who are pondering spiritually what is happening, how are we evolving, who are trying to understand how and why did all of this take place, how did we get here, or people who are just even the people who are trying to figure out civic remedies, whatever degree of enlightenment they are functioning at, you know, they are doing some measure of the work, because there are so many who are already zombies And you got them who just ignorant. And then you have your knowledge, however finite it might be, you at least have enough knowledge to know something ain't right. And, um, you know, so you are having to keep an eye on the other side, the attacker. Then you have to keep an eye on the ignorant because they can be steered as automatons. And then even those who have some measure of enlightenment have to maintain their sanity because you're still human. It's a heavy burden to bear. So when we talk about stuff about, you know, we came back at this time to be online and I don't mean like online on the internet. I mean online on the ethernet. You know what I mean? So it is beyond the the celebratory state of I'm conscious. I'm awake. You know, I know what time. Now we're fully seeing, and it's not like we needed this, but to fully see, but it is showing us more and more the heavy burden of the contract accepted to incarnate here at this time. A word that come to my mind is a pioneer. Pioneer. It's celebrated when you look back in the past. We say, oh, so and so was a pioneer in this music genre, or so and so was a pioneer in science, or a pioneer in spirituality, you know. Um, but when you're in the moment of the pioneering effort, in the presence of it, there's a lot of pain that goes along with that. Anytime you are going against the grain of whatever effort, even within the effort that seems to be pioneering, you might be going against the grain. You know, yesterday my broadcast was something that will go against the grain of what many people think is their spiritual path. You know, we already crossed that road about Aldebath. We already know we trying to smash him. You know, he got to go. You know, he's holding us back. Even that was a pioneer is an example of a pioneering effort because a lot of people will have a lot of negative things to say about that. And it's not to say that I'm right, and not to say that anyone ever is when they're pioneering, but it creates new synapses, new neurons. When you're in the gym and you're trying to lift some weight you've never lifted, my brother used to tell me, I just want you to feel the weight. And so he might put 4 plates when I used to be able to bench press, how he introduced me to pressing 4 plates on the bench press. Um, he would have his hands on the bar, and he was a master of gauging how much force I was able to apply and knowing how much he needed to apply to keep it moving so I don't, have this thing fall down on my throat. But what happened is by me feeling that, my tendons, my muscles, my nervous system were introduced to something beyond what they were accustomed to. That was a pioneering effort. this that we're involved in, no matter what level you at, what your practice is a pioneering effort relative to our surroundings. Um, I think it's a time where people need to try to identify a common foe, and people need to try to figure out how, okay, I'm into this path. This person's on this path. This one's on this one. How can we find some common denominator? But here's the difficult part. We still got to make money. We haven't gotten down to a barter and trade reality yet. We're still, whether we want to admit it or not, we're still capitalists. And we have to make individual money, fiat currency, because we have individual responsibilities, and the idea of community has been disrupted by several things. And because of that, it makes it harder for people to try to find common ground, because as long as there is a conflict, there is a way to generate income. In conflict generates income. So if I have a system that I align with, and you have a system, or you practice it this way and I practice it that way, if we beef with each other, then I have a chance to try to prove why my approach is better than yours, which can enhance my bottom line. Versus, how about I just focus on transformation? I can be an agent of transformation through whatever path I'm using, and I respect everybody's position, their stance, and I ask for the same. See, some things are simple. Some things is not so complicated to combat what's going on. A lot of this stuff of turning the switch on and the squeezing that we're living in is to take advantage of the animal aspect of humanity. You know, that sphinx in the middle of that desert, just in its structure, tells you a lot. It's a human head on top of an animal's body. When that human head is not the master of the ship and that body takes over, and it's running on pure instinct. I mean, for us as humans to be reduced to that, we don't get reduced to the animal level, we get reduced to beneath the animal level, because even they have codes. They have codes. And so we gotta we need to take a moment for pause and to consider how dangerous the foe is. That foe is a thought form that has gotten out of control. Those who have come back here at this time with a certain measure of enlightenment and light have the responsibility to be parental, in nature. Now you, Am I here? Can y'all hear me? Mic check. Oh, okay. Well, my picture is gone. I had a call come through. Um, can y'all see me? I can't see nothing. Oh, it's buffering. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Oh, you can see me? Okay. Well, let's just hurry up and wrap it up. Of course, we have to come back and circle back to this. Um, where was I? The dangerous, the dangerous foe. Um, needs to be uh, okay. If it's on me, I don't know because I can't I ain't got no picture no more. But either way, um, the there's definite powerful spiritual energy that is flowing right now in the midst of all the craziness, which is why people are taking more desperate measures to try to thwart it. Um, if you all haven't, can you see this book? Can y'all see this? Occult America: The Secret History of How Mysticism Shaped Our Nation by Mitch Horowitz. Oh, y'all can't see it? Yeah, my phone is, it kind of messed it up. Because, um, either way, the book Occult America: The Secret History of How Mysticism Shaped Our Nation. I think it's a good book to have because it talks about a lot of uh, religious organizations got their start around the last time that Jupiter and Neptune formed their conjunction in Pisces. There was this movement in New York in an area called the Burned Over District. And you had out of that area and that time frame, you had the Mormons come about with Joseph Smith. Um, you had um, later on, Blavatsky would come to the States, to New York. You had I want to say that Jehovah's Witness um, kind of got its start around that time. Uh, who else? You had um, Andrew Jackson Davis. He was Let's read about him. When the Davis family moved to the growing town of Poughkeepsie in 1839, things began to look up, at least a little. The family was able to enroll its 14-year-old son in an inexpensive experimental Quaker school. It was inexpensive because there were no teachers to pay. Founder Joseph Lancaster's experiment was to have its children teach one another. Soon Davis was placed in charge of his own class, which he recalled in his memoirs as a miscellaneous band composed of about 20 snarly haired, bad odored, dirty faced, ragged dressed, comic acting, squinting, lisping, broad mouthed, Lincoln slyly, and yet somewhat promising urchins, end quote. Um, but Davis would go on to start his own movement. I forgot what his was called. You need to get this book. You had the traveling mesmerist. Oh, that was what he ended up calling himself because he was into mesmerizing people or some type of hypnosis. You had, I mean, it goes on and on and on with these different characters who popped up. And I won't hold you as I go in here and try to find these different pages I marked. But I just say that to show the type of energetic signature of that time, which would lend us to believe and know that we're in a similar one right now because of those two very mystical planets. Um, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Straight Panther. Pascal Beverly Randolph. Yes, that's his era. That's right. Forgive me overlooking that. Pascal Beverly Randolph, who who was an advisor to Lincoln and who was the forerunner of all the stuff that Blavatsky, her theosophy, and who was never mentioned. You always mention about her going to Tibet and her learning from in India, but you never hear any mention about Pascal Beverly Randolph. You also have the suffrage movement, which tied into the abolitionist movement. That um, that evolves around it. I mean, it was a lot going on, and you can see, like I talked about, Pisces is a pool, and it was all this milieu of energy um, thrust into this pool at this time, which would say that there were also nefarious hands at work at that time as well. And this is what uh, Steiner is talking about in that snippet I read from that lecture, that there were certain factions, he calls them materialists, who were looking to steer that energy in a certain direction. So we are living in a similar climate as then. But I think that's enough. I'm gonna get in here, look at my little ones. I just wanted to touch on that briefly. And at the end of the day, be not dismayed. Um, I also think, you know, and I know some of y'all might not deal with the Bible any, but again, what did Brother Bob used to say? They said, there is no truth, all is accepted. He said that was a quote from Robert Anton Wilson. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, um, pick up your Quran and read the book of Medium. Um, and in the Bible, go and read the story of Elijah, the opening. There's a drought, but you will be okay. Um, and um, for me, I'm trying to stay on the middle path. It's very difficult because you will hear. I listen to a lady's channel. She be talking some good stuff. Then she'll get into her super Christian bag. Yeah, all these people around here talking about astrology. It's like, oh man, here you go with that. Like it, this thing. But then on the same token, they'll talk about how the Holy Spirit gave me the power to see this and that. That's divination. That's divination. But see what I'm saying? I'm trying to, I think we need to try to find a middle path to where you can truly be a scientist and not be so stuck into trying to condemn people who may be tapping into something beyond your scope. Just say, I don't know. I don't know. Same token, you got people who are deep into occult studies and they feel like I'm left handed by nature. I mean, by physically, I'm left handed. Okay. But from path work, they feel as though only working the left hand is the way. And just like the Christian or the religious person will condemn, people who work with this hand will condemn the right. Or they'll, you know what I'm saying? Anything that has a semblance of that, i.e., I ain't picking up no Bible. I'm not looking like, for me personally, I pulled a tarot spread for myself at the start of the year. And the first card that came up was the Magician. And when you look at the Magician card is similar to the Christian Eucharist because which is the Eucharist is called communion. The communion table has the elements laid on it. If you look at the tarot card for the Magician, he has the elements laid in front of him. The Magician job is to work with these elements. The magician is the original scientist, figuring out how to work with the els, the gods, elements. See, we're talking middle path talk. And I think we need to just consider it. Consider a different perspective because we're up against something that's what it does. It takes everything and figure out how to weaponize it. Maybe we should do the same. That's all I got. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. What's up, Brianna? Um, Tap in and tap out or tuck the results in your tube belt. Indeed. What's up, Crazy B or Crazy Eights? Hope I didn't miss anybody else, but as always, I thank y'all for tuning in. Um, Stay down till you get up. When you get up, stay down for sure. We're gonna come back. Gonna keep this. We're gonna circle back with this discussion on Venus and the destiny of melanin, part two. I'll be back with that. We're going to look at America, and I'm going to be expounding more on the work of Brother Bobby. Um, uh, the latest video they dropped on Serious Times, um, they know what they're doing, like when they put these videos out. Very timely. But he talks about the destiny as it relates to America. And I want to kind of expound on some of that and uh, and tie it into Venus and her many facets. So that'll be the next time that we do a chat. But until then, as my mama used to say back in the day, keep your chin up. Peace.